Hello and welcome to this episode. I wanted to welcome Brian Higgins, Finance Director at Hadley Property Group. Welcome, Brian.
Hi Mark, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm very excited to talk with you today. We spoke briefly just before we started this episode, and really we could kick off by your journey into real estate and where you are at Hadley Property Group.
Yeah, thanks. I've been at Hadley for almost 14 years now. And prior to that, I've been at a number of different developers, mainly sort of house builder types. And prior to that, in various different property management. But my start really was in automotive industry. I worked for Ford Motor Company for about 10 years when I first moved. And that gave me a really good grounding in financial control, procedures and the sort of bedrock of putting things in in the right places. 13 years ago, Hadley was a very different beast, much smaller beast. And me and others that came in at that time have sort of put the bedrock in to help that company grow, or this company grow in that time. And so my sort of financial background and training, I am a qualified accountant. It gave me that the sort of core skills to sort of build on from there, and then adapt those into Hadley.
It's great to see the transferable skills and the journey that you've been on. So
Yeah.
really great to see how that's implemented into the property sector and the real estate sector. So if we're looking back at recent years, I know you said you've had quite a journey, and I know that there's been many financial changes and market changes in that time. If we're looking back at recent years, so we're talking about the last 2 to 3 years specifically, what's been the most significant shift you've noticed in the industry?
I think there's been obviously a lot of global macroeconomic challenges that have sort of impacted the wider UK economy. Going back to Brexit, and then the knock-on effects of that, and that has sort of impacted certainly our um, industry in a number of ways, and I think resources is one, and that's been a challenge, not just on our side, but in the construction industry for some time now. Um, Interest rates, obviously, is an obvious one that's impacted um, the whole economy, but has slowed housing down. And I think the planning system and in my view, the sort of tinkering with it to try and change something that, in my view, just needs better resourcing to sort of make it work. We're in a situation where we have a vast undersupply of housing, and it's a it's a crucial issue for a lot of people, and we haven't seemed to have got the legislation right to make it work. And the sort of, I mentioned the word tinkering there, and maybe that's been a bit flippant with it, but the the sort of impact that we've had in that, in certainly in the last 2 years, around um, getting on site and getting started, it has proved a big challenge. There's been a lot of legislative change that have come in, and um, the way that's been handled has slowed things down a lot. I think those changes have come in with very good reason, and that those stemmed from Grenfell, and the changes are right, but the way it's been handled and the way it's been delivered, it has proven to be a massive challenge. Interest rate and the ability to fund developments has proved to be a real challenge in the last couple of years.
So the challenges are coming from all angles, really, from legislation and finance point of view as well. How are you adapting and how are you evolving business to meet today's market challenges?
Hadley, we're sort of regeneration specialists, really, is what we are, and we've got a residential focus within that regeneration, but acknowledging that each residential development needs other aspects to it to help it grow and survive and be sustainable. So I think where what helps us greatly is our approach to finding out what that community needs when we're looking at an opportunity. We engage in a lot of community involvement very early on in our planning journey, and even before we sort of decide to buy a site, we engage with the community, and that has given us a very good track record in getting planning. The sort of proof of the pudding is in the eating in that respect, in that we've got a 100% track record of achieving planning permissions, or obtaining planning permissions at first committee. We've never had a refusal, we've never had a deferral. So I think our approach to planning gives us that differentiator, and allows us to avail of the opportunities as they come through. That has led us to have a lot of good relationships with the local boroughs, because they see that we're approaching things in the right way and that we're trying to do things. The other way we approach things to try and adapt to the current market, or any market, is our sort of flexibility in how we design things, and how we look at the overall development, and a flexibility in approach right from the start, rather than just doing the same thing all the time, every time, gives us a really good base to sort of adapt as and when things change.
I know we spoke a lot about challenges, and we spoke about the challenges within the current market. Where do you see the best growth potential in the current market?
Well, I think 2024 was widely regarded as being one of the toughest for a long time in terms of the housing industry, and it was stagnant. Everyone, I think, with the change of government, had expectations that the economy was going to grow, and we were all expecting or hoping maybe that there would be growth in the economy and a better feel coming into the latter part of 2024, and that never happened, really. So I think everyone is ready for growth, and I think everyone wants it to happen. So I think that's an important part of it, that the mood is starting to change. In 2024, we managed to get planning on 3 different sites for roughly 2,000 homes. So we've got a fantastic pipeline. I think in our pipeline we've got just close on 6,000 homes under our control. As I said, 2,000 of those got planning last year. So we're in the right place to sort of look and see what is the best delivery option now for all of those sites. I think I've mentioned briefly that the flexibility and our openness to bring in partners when we see it's right, and that, whether that's a different finance partner or a different delivery partner, the flexibility allows us to do that, and we've got great product now and great planning permissions to be able to do that. So that's an opportunity for us. That pipeline gives us something that a lot of other developers don't have. The other area of growth really we see is, we've got a lot of really good people here. We're a company of only about 32, and but we've got a lot of great people here, and I think diversifying out, using those skills that we've got in house is going to be key for us, and that will come in different forms, whether it's development and management services for others, maybe public bodies. We've got really good partnerships and relationships with local authorities, I mentioned earlier, and building on those to help them out in different ways. We've got really good funding partners in our shareholders, Peterson Group and Alti, and the management here are the ownership entities within Hadley, and we've got really good access to capital, and we want to build on that, and perhaps help others out with raising capital as well. We've got great partnerships with housing associations, registered providers, but we see that a lot of the sort of long-standing registered providers have got some legacy issues that they need to sort of rectify and sort of put resources towards, which doesn't allow them to develop as much as they would like. So we're looking at, our own registered provider service. We're going through the registration process for that at the moment. And I mentioned the sort of community engagement programs that we engage in, and they've been very successful. And again, we think that could be something that we can help our partners with, to use the skills that we've got to help them in that aspect of it as well. So that would be a big growth area for us.
You really are diversifying. When you think of all the skills that you've got within your team, to be able to branch off in so many different directions is something very powerful. And it takes a lot to really acknowledge and to identify the skills as well, first of all, but then to act. And I think that it all starts with, like you said, the pipeline, being able to have that flexibility to be able to start thinking on a broader scale. And when you're talking about your team, I know you said about 32. What's your secret really to attracting and retaining top talent?
It's a question we've asked ourselves a lot, because I mentioned sort of one of the challenges right at the outset was resource, and it's really difficult to find really good people. So when you do get them, it's important that we can hold on to them. So we've tried different aspects of it, and the ways that have been successful for us in recent times is just looking slightly differently at how we get people in, and our recruitment. So we've changed our sort of recruitment policies from the traditional recruitment agents, to looking at things a little bit differently, and we've started a number of programs to try and get people in earlier to help to, so we've this year launched an apprenticeship program. Last year we launched a graduate program to get new people in. I think we've had, I think last year we had nearly 2,000 hours of work experience people come in, and that just broadens our reach really to sort of get people familiar with our culture and how we work, and get them wanting to work with us, but more importantly in the industry. And then within our own team, we sort of recognised that us in the exec board are not getting any younger, and we need to sort of think about how things are going to be shaped in the future. And we've got some really good young leaders in the team, and so we've created a leadership program for them, that they go off as a group and as individuals, and sort of are mentored really, and are given access to sort of leadership tools, and that's been really successful, where they now see that they've been empowered and have got the opportunity to sort of step up, and that's really been great for us. And I think then everyone else can see that it's not just the same voices every day talking about things that are changing in the company. We've got a new, younger, more diverse group to sort of that voices they can hear and probably relate to a little bit more. But that's proven to be very successful, and it's challenged us, given us an extra boost to an extra energy to sort of keep going and make sure that we're the company's in good hands. Really, you can see the energy has changed, and people have responded really positively to it.
Great, it's a great approach to recruitment that you've got, really, from the graduate programs, etc. You mentioned the word culture and ensuring that is passed down in the right way. So when we're talking about the traditional ways of recruitment, is there anything that kind of didn't work for you in that respect, and why you changed your approach?
The simple answer could be that we weren't very good at it. We weren't very good at recruiting and interviewing, and that probably had a lot to do with it. So we had to get other people involved that had a different way of doing it. We tried blind recruiting. We do that now as standard, so that any CV we come in, we there's no names, there's no gender on them. It's completely blind. So we're just getting the skill set. But we just found that changing it to try and get people engaged earlier, get them in for a short term so that they can try us out as well as we try them out. has been successful. Um, and we've also sort of we've gone the other end as well. And that I talked about the diversification, what we want to do. People that we know a long time in the industry, that we're looking for a change, have sort of looked and seen what we're doing, and have added to the sort of leadership team as well. Um, so that's been very helpful. So yeah, I think that the traditional way, as I say, it could be just that we weren't very good at it and we needed to change, and that's probably been the biggest the impact. I think that we've realized that it didn't work, so let's change it, and this certainly now has proven to be successful so far, so we'll continue with that for a while. I know I've mentioned the word culture a couple of times, and that's really important, certainly to me, and I know to everybody else here as well, is that developers in general have got traditionally a bad reputation. That the big greedy developer label is put out a lot of people, and fundamentally, I and my partners, and I think everybody in this company wants to build decent houses for people, to give them an opportunity, and our track record of delivering affordable housing above what is policy is again probably second to none. We always deliver more than what is dictated by policy where we can, and it's important to us. That's what we want to do. That's the values that we have within the company, we want to do things right so that people have got the best opportunity to have decent homes, and I think that communication from day one when people come in, I think, is something they can buy into, and it's I think one of our leadership team mentioned it yesterday as a soft power that we've got, which I thought was a very good term, in that having that and getting people buy in and making them feel what we're doing is worthwhile is very important.
Also, from an operational standpoint, I know you touched on diversifying, etc. Are there any other unique operational strategies that have given you an edge?
The relationships that we build, and no matter what you do, you deal with people, and you've got to get relationships with people, and that's something we try and push from every aspect of the company, whether it's somebody in our land team, someone in our delivery team, the people that are just in the office. It's something that's really important. The people that you meet and deal with every day have got to trust you, but you've got to build that relationship. So that's something we encourage people a lot to do in all aspects of it, and so that's different, and that sort of permeates out then, and the relationships we've got, and in all the London boroughs, we're primarily focused within the London boroughs, is has been really beneficial to us, and that goes back to the community engagement, that the local authorities see that when we come in, we're trying to do things right, and that builds relationships, and I think that's been key for us, and it's something that as I say, we're now looking at diversifying out, but those sort of key messages and key approaches, I think, will be key to make those successes successful as well. Talking about raising different types of funds, I think there's a much bigger appetite now for impact funding, and people want to be investing in the right type of project. I think our community engagement, people are really interested in when they're looking at our investment opportunities that we present. They're not just looking at the bottom line anymore. They're looking at what it means, and how it's approached. So that's just one aspect of how the sort of approach gives us that little bit of an edge, I think.
You've given me so much different angles on the business from an inward perspective, but also outwardly how you guys see things, and it's great. I know we spoke a lot about humans and the team and diversifying and resources in that respect. How do you decide which new technologies to embrace while maintaining proven methods?
When the pandemic hit, a lot of our community engagement was going out and meeting people, and that stopped it immediately. We couldn't do it. so we had to come up with a different method of reaching out to people. And our comms team here were really resourceful and actually designed an online tool for people to engage with. That proved to be really, really successful. It just meant that people could, traditional sort of engagement for us and for everybody else was, you go to the local community hall and we've got some billboards up and some design ideas and some feedback forms, but that all stopped immediately. So this online tool sort of tried to replicate that, and that it gave the feeling of that community hall online, and where people could go into different rooms and view different aspects of the design and the project. And we found that people really engaged in that, and it grew into a really powerful tool where we could see, people it found it easier to engage with it because they could just sit at home. If it was a cold Thursday night when it's raining, nobody wanted to go to the community hall anyway. So, but they could just sit at home and view it, and were more engaged with it. But it also allowed us to capture that engagement really in a much more efficient way. And from a planning perspective, or a planning story, we were able to demonstrate that engagement to the local authority and say, look, we've had 800 visits to the online tool in the last 2 weeks, and they've all said they want this aspect of, they want a community hub in the development. So we've put it in there. So it was a really, really powerful tool for us. But that came out of us trying to think, how are we going to do what we do without having the access to the people. And it's just finding that way, and then growing out of that from the feedback that we were receiving, was knowing then what people wanted on site. So, our approach of community engagement involves a lot of meanwhile use that we then try and make sure that it ends up in the permanent development as well. Our planning journeys can take 2 years. So you may have a site that's I could lay barren for 2 years, but we try and activate it and get and get people involved in it. An example is that is a site down in Stratford and IQL North, where it's one of the last areas of the Olympic Village to be developed, and it's basically a large rectangle of green space, and that was hoarded off for a long time. And we've activated that by putting in a growing garden for people. There's community saunas in there. There's a training facility for ex-offenders, just all from hearing what the community needed through that tool that we developed. And following on from that, some aspects of that will end up in the final development that we got planning for last week. So I think our engagement with new technologies has sort of grown out of what we're hearing from what people needed.
It's great. Something like that usually does get forced upon us, really. Technology and change, especially when things are going well, and we see that it's not broken, don't fix it. But yeah, a lot of people have been forced, especially over the last 4 to 5 years and post-COVID, like you mentioned. Great way to capture data. Great way to, like you said, provide that data to those that need to see it. When we're talking about the future, we're looking at the outlook of the future. What changes do you anticipate reshaping the industry?
The planning system has to be oiled better. I mentioned it being better resourced. It's got to move more smoothly. People have but I think the government's approach, certainly the language you're using now, I think build baby build was what Keir Starmer had said in one of his talks. So that change of attitude and let's get on with it, and I think will be really, really important. It's got to be a sentiment that things are going to get done, because we have got a really, really drastic sort of housing shortage that there's just no getting away from that. So we need to change that, and freeing up the planning system will ultimately help that. And then, I think as the economy improves and sentiment comes back with a bit more confidence, then I think you'll see investment come back in, to sort of to bolster that. So I think they're the things that are needed primarily in the next 12 to 18 months.
Thank you. And I will leave it with this. And if you were talking to your future leaders within the company, what would be key advice for them for preparing for tomorrow's challenges?
They might hear this. So, yeah, I think they've got to, look at things just outside of their own disciplines. We've got leaders across our delivery team, our finance team, land team, and they've all got their own objectives, but they've got to look at things outside of their own sort of disciplines and outside of their own company, and look at the industry as a whole, and be interested in it and have a passion about it. I encourage our newest recruits to get out and see the sites, see the sites that we're looking at buying, see the areas, get to know where what the communities are and what they need, and have a walk around them. And so it's having that that passion and that interest in what we do. And I think if you want to be successful in this industry or any, you've got to have a passion for it. I think you need to have a passion and interest, and find all aspects of it outside of what your training traditionally may have given you. So I think that's the key message.
Amazing bits of wisdom there, Brian, and I'm sure that they'll take that on board. It's great for me as well, as a future leader as well, in order to help me grow. So thank you for that. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to let people know where they might be able to find out a bit more about Hadley Property Group. If you wanted to end it with that.
Yeah, our website, hadleypropertygroup.com, a good summary of the projects that we've got on that are up and coming, and the people involved, and also gives an opportunity to. I've mentioned the sort of the schemes that we're running in terms of the apprenticeship scheme, the graduate scheme, and the leadership program. That's all available there. So if people are interested in that, and through the website, if anyone wants to know more, then drop us a line. There's contact details there. We'll be happy to meet anyone and talk to anyone that's got any interest in the industry or what we do. So we're keen, as hope I've demonstrated, to talk to as many people as are interested. So yeah, anybody that wants to get in touch, then please do. And thanks for the opportunity, Mark, for being able to speak today.
Thank you very much, Brian, for your time, and appreciate that.